But Ade did not give up. He knew that the staff was their only hope. He thrust it into the ground, and a wave of light erupted from it, washing over the clearing and enveloping the spirits. The spirits howled in pain as the light touched them, their forms flickering and fading. But they did not disappear. Instead, they gathered around the stone altar, forming a protective barrier around the sword. Ade knew what he had to do. He reached into his satchel and pulled out a small pouch of sacred herbs that Baba Ogun had given him. He sprinkled the herbs over the staff, and the light grew brighter, driving the spirits back further. With the spirits weakened, Ade approached the altar. But as he reached for the sword, the ground beneath him trembled, and a figure emerged from the earth. It was a woman, her face hidden behind a veil, her body draped in tattered robes. She was the spirit of the sorceress who had bound the dead to this place, the true guardian of the sword. "Who dares to claim the sword of Orunmila?" the sorceress hissed, her voice like the rustling of dry leaves. "This sword belongs to the dead, and no living soul shall take it from us." Ade did not falter. He gripped the staff tightly and spoke with all the courage he could muster. "I do not seek to take the sword for myself. I seek it to save my people from the darkness that you have unleashed upon the world. If you truly wish to protect the dead, then let me use the sword to stop this evil." "You speak the truth, young one," the sorceress said. "The sword was meant to protect, not to destroy. Take it, and use it wisely. But know this: once you take the sword, the spirits will be released, and they will no longer be bound to this place. They will return to the land of the living, and you must be ready to face them." Ade nodded, understanding the gravity of the task before him. He reached out and grasped the hilt of the sword of Orunmila. The moment his hand touched the blade, a surge of power flowed through him, filling him with a strength he had never known. The spirits that had guarded the sword began to fade, their forms dissolving into the air like mist. The sorceress, too, began to fade, her voice a whisper on the wind. "Go, young one," she said. "Go and fulfill your destiny." With the sword of Orunmila in hand, Ade and the men of Olusola made their way back through the evil forest. The journey back was just as treacherous as the journey there, but the sword's power seemed to protect them, and the spirits that had once haunted their steps were no longer a threat. When they finally emerged from the forest, they were greeted by the villagers who had been waiting anxiously for their return. The sky was still dark, but a faint light had begun to break through the clouds, signaling the end of the unnatural darkness. Baba Ogun met them at the edge of the village, his eyes filled with pride as he saw the sword in Ada's hand. "You have done well," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "The gods are with you, and the darkness will soon be lifted." But the battle was not yet over. As Baba Ogun had warned, the spirits of the dead had been released from the evil forest, and they now roamed the land, seeking vengeance against the living. The village was soon under attack, with spirits emerging from the shadows, their eyes glowing with an unearthly light. Ade knew that the sword of Orunmila was their only hope. He raised the sword high, and a beam of light shot from its blade, piercing the darkness and driving the spirits back. The men of Olusola fought bravely, using the sword's power to vanquish the spirits one by one. But the sorceress's warning echoed in Ade's mind. The spirits were relentless, and for every one that was defeated, another seemed to take its place. It was as if the very land itself was fighting against them. As the battle raged on, Ade realized that the only way to truly end the curse was to confront the source of the evil, the sorceress herself. He called upon the power of the sword, and a portal opened before him, leading back to the heart of the evil forest. Without hesitation, Ade stepped through the portal, the sword in hand. He found himself back in the clearing, where the stone altar still stood. But this time, the sorceress was waiting for him, her veil lifted to reveal a face twisted with rage and sorrow. "Why have you returned?" the sorceress demanded, her voice filled with anger. "You have the sword. What more do you want?" "I want to end this," Ade said, his voice steady. "I want to free the spirits you have bound to this place and bring peace to my village." The sorceress laughed, a cold, bitter sound. "You are a fool," she said. "The spirits will never be free. They are bound by the pain and suffering they endured in life, and they will not rest until they have claimed the souls of the living." Ade knew that the sorceress spoke the truth, but he also knew that the sword held the power to break the curse. He raised the sword of Orunmila and channeled all his strength into the blade. The sword glowed with a brilliant light, brighter than the sun, and the ground beneath him trembled. The sorceress screamed as the light enveloped her, her form dissolving into the air. The spirits that had been bound to the evil forest were released, their souls rising into the sky like stars, finally free from their torment. The portal closed, and Ade found himself back in the village, the sword still glowing in his hand. The spirits that had attacked the village were gone, their presence replaced by a peaceful stillness that had not been felt in Olusola for many years. With the evil vanquished and the spirits at peace, the village of Olusola began to heal. The crops grew once more, the rivers ran clear, and the sky returned to its natural blue. The people rejoiced, and Ade was hailed as a hero, the savior of the village. But Ade knew that the true victory belonged to the people of Olusola, who had faced their fears and stood together against the darkness. The sword of Orunmila was returned to the shrine, where it was placed under the care of Baba Ogun, to be protected and revered for generations to come. And so, the legend of the land of the living dead became a story passed down through the ages, a tale of courage, sacrifice, and the enduring power of light over darkness.